Hello, I'm Robin. Yeah, alright, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what on earth is he doing? Looking so cold. In his shed, well, heck, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't really prepared today to make a video, particularly, so I look a bit of a state. And it is cold, it is true, but it's warming up. I've got the heater on, but I have time while this is happening, while the shed is warming up, just to talk to you a little bit about that patch I made. Because a couple of people have asked, could I do a bit of a breakdown on my Indulgent Jam that I posted yesterday, because it's got quite a nice response, which is lovely. I wasn't expecting that, but I did know that it was a nice patch. I've had it going for a week. I mean, mainly because I haven't had the time to work on it, but I knew that there was something in there that was just kind of nice. A couple of things were going on that just really sort of worked nicely. And so, I left it up. I've left it on for days. And during the course of that, I discovered that there's a bug in the Erica Synths effects modules in that they like to crash after about 24 hours. Or you leave them on overnight and you come back the next day and they're like broken. So that was good, but Erica Synths have now fixed that, which is nice. But I did also turn this off yesterday, and so I've lost a few bits and pieces, but I will try to recreate those as I talk about the patch. It's relatively simple. There's only a few bits and pieces to it. So what I'll do, I'll bring you in, point at various things, and try to show you kind of how I put it together. I mean, this is the patch running now, although the main bassline bit, the main lead synth bit, isn't right, because there's something which wasn't saved, which doesn't stay after a power cycle that I'm going to have to recreate. So that's in some ways quite exciting. Can you see my breath? No, I don't think so. But anyway, as I say, while the shed is warming itself up, I'm going to try and talk you through these bits, if I can still feel my fingers. And that might be, I don't know, that might be fun anyway. I mean, it's cheap content, isn't it? Hey, so let's give that a go. So I guess I better bring the camera in. Okay, right, hopefully I got a wonky plank down here on the floor, which always makes the camera move. It's just, you have to realise how difficult it is for me to produce anything at all. You should be completely amazed that I produce anything out of this place. But anyway, I do, and here we are. So first of all, let's have a look at that sort of synth line. Let me take everything else out. Okay, good. So what you're listening to is the Pony VCO from Bafako here, going into the Sunless City from LA Circuits, which is a filter. That is then going up here to the Delta V. That's a Cosmotronic module, which is just enveloping it a little bit. And that's coming out of there. Is it coming out of there? Where's it going? Coming out of there, going into the Effects Boy, just up here. Up a little bit, you can see that. That's better. So there's the Delta V going from there into the Effects Boy to give it a little bit of trash. From there, it's then going into my DPW mix over here. This is a great module. It's a stereo mixer, 4 channels. It can also be mono. It's got a built-in limiter, which I'm finding really helpful. It's kind of keeping things together. It's got a little bit of panning, and it's just a good, compact but reachable and fiddleable mixer from DPW, which is great. Anyway, back to what we're doing. So Pony VCO into filter. I've then obviously got a bit of modulation going on. Now the modulation is coming from 2 places. One's coming through my motion meter here, and the other one is coming direct from this module. But essentially both modulations are coming from the Neot Trinity, the Bastel module over here, which is a new module. I've only played with it a tiny bit. It's one of those funny things. I mean, I'm going to do a proper review of it, so I'll probably go over all of this again. But it sort of turned up, and I wasn't expecting it. They didn't really tell me they were going to send me a module. It just sort of turned up, and I looked at it and went, oh, it just looks too complicated. So I ignored it for about 2 months until like last week I decided, oh, let's plug it in. because Bastel was saying, "Oh, it's brilliant, you'll love it." And I'm looking at it going, I am not inspired by this module in any way. Bring it a little bit closer into it, because this is probably going to be important, but I've still got to be able to access it. At the same time, oh my goodness, let's try to get this right, because you're not, can you even see that? Okay, now the Neot Trinity is many things. I'm going to look into it into a lot more depth, but what I managed to work out from playing with it is that it's an LFO that also has recordable CV and recordable triggers, and I used that to create what ended up being a really nice synthesizer line. So what you do, you've got this knob here which does things. It usually changes, by default it changes the rate of the LFO. So at the moment I've got number 1 here, or rather A, just going straight into the filter, I think. Yeah, it's going, I don't know. Where's that going? That's going into there, going into there. So why isn't that doing more? I'd expect that to do more. But the other one, oh yeah, no, because I've got 2 going in. Right. Come on, concentrate. So currently I've got an LFO going into the filter, and that's what's making that change in sound. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to change that one into that, so that's no longer doing its thing. So what I've now got is just channel A. It's got an LFO. It's going through my motion meter over here, so I've turned it down a bit. But it's just whacking through. So essentially I'm going to have a bit of controlled CV coming out of the first channel to control the filter, but maybe first I need to put in the envelope bits. So I've gone to envelope for channel B, and all I'm going to do is stick in a bunch is the plan. How do I even do that? Like that, I think. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold record and just throw in a bunch of envelopes. In fact, what I need for this is a little bit of rhythm. Okay, do you get it? So I've just sent a bunch of triggers to the filter, and this is coming out of here as sort of an envelope. I can change the decay on that a little bit. And that was pretty much it. So now I go back to channel A, which is just going to give me a bit of movement. Not very effective at the moment. I'm trying to work out what I've done wrong there, but it doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do, I turn that all the way up on the motion meter. I'm going to hold record and do the similar sort of thing. So in a very convoluted way, this is now controlling the filter here. So I've got the triggers, or essentially the envelopes from the Neot Trinity going into here. At the same time, I've got some controlled CV going into the variable input here. Now that seems to do something more than it's doing at the moment. But never mind. What's more important is that envelope. That envelope is more important than anything else. And that gives it a kind of a nice... So while I've still got all the stuff coming in from the stochastic inspiration generator, because this is what's creating the line, is this. So that's just the C note going on. And the rhythm from the Bastel is really quite nice. Just to be able to pump in a rhythm like that is something that I've wanted to do. There's something I get frustrated with when trying to create patterns which generate that and fire something off in a certain sort of rhythm. The Neot Trinity just makes that an absolute breeze. I can just tap in exactly kind of kind of what I want, the groove that I want, and it's flipping there. And then all I did is put in a couple of notes like that. I then added the odd high bit. And that ends up being really nice. So there you go, that's the bad explanation of that bit. But it's nice, I get the feeling I'm going to be using that from the Neot Trinity quite a bit, because that is just, it's simple, it's brilliant. I mean, you have to find it. I mean, I don't know if they could have made, well, I mean, could they have made this any more complicated than it looks? You know, it's just like, what is going on? But when you find the bits that you need, it's actually really, really simple. And then I applied a bit of trash distortion from the effects boy. That's without, it's much quieter. That certainly gives it something. Good. Right, let's try that other weird bit, this bit. Okay, this, what you can hear, I don't really understand where it came from. It just turned up. It was something else entirely, and then this happened, and I thought, where's that coming from? And so I don't really know what it is. I know there's some things in it, there's a lot of stuff in here that is no longer actually doing anything. Like, for instance, I'm not actually using the Amelia at all. Which I started off the patch definitely using that, but that's no longer actually a function. It's interesting that, you know, once you've been working on a patch, there's some bits that just become superfluous, but you tend to leave them patched in anyway, and you can simplify a lot if you go through and try to find all the redundancies. Anyway, so back to here. So this sound is being made by the acronym, this oscillator, going into the crazy chicken avocado toast thing, which is a filter. That then is coming through the white rabbit, which is being used as a delay, and then that's going to the output. So what is actually running it is the question I want to answer myself, because I don't really know. Okay, so what I've got is I've got a relatively calm wave shape. I can make that more difficult over here, which is something you can do in during performance. I've left it relatively soft, and it's being run, so the voltage octave input is being run from this lovely little quantizer here I got from Central Village. It's called the SQT. You put voltage in the top and it gives quantize out the bottom. You've got buttons here to select different scales, very simply, that are shown on this representation of a keyboard just there. You can see that. And so I've set it just to basically some white notes, very simply. Can you see in there? And this is coming from Pamela's Pro Workout. Now, I use Pamela's Pro Workout a lot. I aim to do a video on it sometime, but it's something which I I use a bit and then go off and do other things. I know that it's got a whole load of stuff in here that I've never used and never looked at. And so occasionally I just have a little bit of a poke around and see if I'll make it do something I haven't explored before. And so this is all coming out of channel 2. Now channel 2 I've got set up as a random shape. So it's outputting a random shape. If I can find the scope bit. Where's the scope bit go? There we go. So that's sending out a random voltage. And that's being interpreted by the Central Village quantizer here. And that's then being sent to the acronym. So I think I had this running something else and I couldn't quite work out what I wanted it to do. So I just ended up really slowing it down. And it's that's created this really interesting sound. Now there must be other stuff that I've done in here. I mean, I did the shape. Did I create a scale for it or something? Quantization? No, I didn't. So I'm just using it to create voltage. Did I even turn it down or... No, it's level, it's not offset. I was expecting more of this sort of shape. You see the shape that it says? But then when you actually go to the scope, it seems to be relatively calm, and I don't really know why that is. Just gonna... No, I don't want the stop button. That's not what I'm after. I'm after this button. So I could potentially make it faster. I mean, that's quite nice. Like I say, this patch is just phenomenal. So I'm going to go back to my oscillator over here. So the other thing I've done is I've put in a little bit of wobble from the oct. So I'll go back up here a second. So I've got the div kid oct here. That's feeding into the multi-motion meter on channel 4. And as you can see on channel 4, that's going wobbly, 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 wobbly. And that's coming out and going into the FM input on the oscillator. Got all of that? And that's giving it the wobble. Too much and it goes a bit crazy. So I bring that back to just a nice little level. And it gives that nice wobble. See, that's really nice. And then, as I say, I put a bit of delay on it with the White Rabbit, which is at the top. And that produces what we have. They're not particularly well tuned together at the moment. So it definitely works when it was slower. It sort of put in this ethereal note like that, which I thought was really nice. Now, is it being enveloped? No, but I've got another slow moving LFO from the oct controlling the cutoff on the filter here. So that way it's sort of moving in and moving out. That's really great, like that. Okay, so that's that channel, so those two things. So in between those two, I've got my old friend the Surface. So that's up here. Surface very simply has got its decay being modulated. Also its strike, I didn't even notice that. Anyway, it's being modulated. So it moves through its ringy sounds to more muted sounds, and that then is going into the lovely Erica synth stereo delay here, which is alright except for when I came back and it had crashed. and that then's going out. And at times I whack the wet right up, and then bring it a bit more back into focus. That was nice, and it's been sequenced by the ASQ1. Now, ASQ1 is a module that I've ignored a little bit too much. This fella down here. I mean, this is something that I purchased. I thought it would be really good, so I'm under no obligation to make a video on it. And so, because of that lack of obligation, I tend to ignore things that I purchased myself a little bit. But it's something which requires a little bit of my time, I think. But on this particular occasion, it just worked really well. I just pumped in a whole bunch of notes, and let the sequence run. That was really it. Nothing more exciting than that. I then did a little bit of time divisions. So I would remove the time division, I suppose, and put it back onto the clock. And then we have this much faster thing going on. Which, using the feedback and the wet dry, you can really make that sound nice. I've also got the whole output running through the Synths reverb at the top here as well, which, when you dial that all the way in, this sort of cathedral reverb, it's a beautiful thing. So that's just running here very, very simply, and I literally programmed just a bunch of notes, because this is like an SH101 type sequencer, where you just hit record and you play a bunch of stuff, but it's doing each step. It's not, you're not playing it in real time, you're playing it in step time. And so that, I find, usually, hopefully, generates a whole bunch of sequences that are slightly unexpected, because I don't have the patience to sit down and write out exactly what I want the sequence to be. And so I just sort of make it up, stick in the odd hole, stick in the odd rest, and just see what happens. It's that simple. I do have a bit of trouble with tuning first thing in the morning. I'm yet to come up with a proper tuning routine. It's like trying to tune the surface to things just by ear is really hard, but then you have to sort of unplug it all to plug it into some kind of tuner to then tune it, and then you have to plug it all back in again, you know. I've not quite mastered that, so I just keep fiddling and fiddling about until it all just goes completely haywire. Right, percussion then. So down here at this bottom case of stuff is what I've done is I've attempted to build a percussion case. That was my idea. My intention is to do a whole bunch of reviews on different percussion modules, because I have a few that I need to be doing reviews of that I haven't. Things like the Trinity, things like Particles, again, properly, the Mandrake, the Fizzalune Vega, things like that. And so I want to do better at percussion, and so I've put this together with that intention. However, I keep getting pulled into other directions, so I'm just using it as best I can in the situation that I've got. So someone has lent me, a nice person has lent me the Stolper Beats, which is fun. It's a lot of fun, and it gives you stuff, which is always good. I need stuff rather than having to program each pattern individually myself. I appreciate the fact that this has stuff to give me. So essentially the Stolper Beats is running the show. It's taking a clock from Pam's, but this is then running a kick, snare, hi-hat and a percussion. So let me just show you what those are. Now all of it is being mixed rather lovely through my Molten Motion Meter 1U here, which is a brilliant use for it, because percussion is often mono, and so you can just whack it all through and you get a single output. Brilliant, perfect, I would say. And it's very visual, so you can see what's going on as well as hear it, or if you've muted it somewhere else, you can still see that the pattern is running. So it's a very useful visual indication of what the heck is happening. So for this, I am using the Mandrake over here from Maelstrom. Or is it the Maelstrom from Mandrake? Well, I forget. But anyway, so this is something I plan to do a proper video on. But essentially it's kind of an overladen kick drum, which has a lot of great possibilities to it. But in there somewhere is a flippin' decent kick, which is what I'm after. So that's then run by Stolper Beats down here. So there's the kick pattern here, and you can very easily dial in more patterns. It's very good, very, very clever. So that's simply the kick drum, and the snare is coming from here, these EXO little 1U modules I've got over here, which again I'll do a proper video on. I've got 3 of these. The hi-hat's also being run through these little tiny modules here, which are just analog drum sounds based on the 808 kind of thing. There's not a whole lot going on with it really. But again, back to the Stolper Beats, I can change the pattern that that's using. This also lets you mute as well. You just push down on a button and it mutes that channel. So that's the snare on channel 2 here. Then I've got a very simple hi-hat, as I say, being run by another EXO module here. And of course hi-hats can be all sorts of things, but I just sort of landed on this, and this just really worked for me. I mean, normally I'm working hi-hats quite hard, dropping them in, dropping them out, that kind of thing, but this just seemed simple. It's this line down here of lights. There's all sorts of stuff that sounds a bit strange to my ears. Was that it? Could be. And then I had this last bit here. Now this is a bit more interesting. I'm going to be doing a review of this module. This is the SGR 180620 from Knob Technologies. And it's a weird thing. I mean, heck, I didn't used to get on with the Basimilis Alteratus Alta in noise engineering. This is a similar idea, but I understand it's completely analog, and it's just nuts. So I've run it a percussion line from the Stolper Beats, and it very quickly changes from simple things into crazy things. Now I'm running this from the particles, or rather through the particles, so the Stolper Beats is giving me the basic pattern, and then I'm using particles here to increase that and also add probability. I don't think it survived the switch off. So that's what's coming from the Stolper Beats essentially. What I can do is go to absorb and stick in a bunch of that. That's it. It's there somewhere. And then I can increase what's happening, and it gives me this rather nice rhythm. So absorption on the particles is a bit like probability, but it just ensures that the first beat is always there, so you never kind of lose that beat coherence, if you like. So it just drops an occasional one out. And then using the time base here, I can essentially repeat the pattern that's coming in. So it takes the pattern, which should be down here somewhere, something very steady, and adds more to it. But it's still based upon the original pattern that's going in. Any of that make sense? I don't know. I'm going to try and do a video on it soon as. Anyway, back to this fella. So they got all sorts of stuff. Everything does something. Exactly what? I have no clue. So that, my friends, is an overly elaborate explanation of what this patch is all about, which is, as I say, it's slightly detuned itself now and is kind of losing itself. There's a lot of fun in that module. I'll spend some time with it. I will. But just a really enjoyable patch to play with. I mean, I didn't really think about trying to transition from anything to anything. There was no like big chordal changes or underlying root notes I was worried about. The whole thing was just playing. And the bit that I stuck online was only half an hour. only half an hour. You know, I was recording for about an hour and a half. And just essentially doing the same thing and not losing interest, because often, you know, you're playing the same thing over and over again, it just gets a bit dull after a while. But this I can leave on all day. Go back, fiddle with it a bit, and then leave it in the background as I'm doing other stuff, and then come back to it. And sort of that's what I did. So I kind of cut out the last half an hour that I did, thinking that's going to be as much as people can stand, I imagine. and stuck that up. But it's really interesting to hit upon some kind of personal sweet spot. Do you know what I mean? And in some ways, this represents the sort of music I enjoy making in modular, which is just something which is rolling over, that has enough change and probability in itself that you can just turn stuff up, turn stuff down, make a few adjustments, and it keeps bringing new life into itself somehow. You know, it's interesting because, you know, this does happen, at least I think it does from time to time, because like Facebook feeds me occasional memories of jams I've done before. You know, it throws up a clip that I stuck on something, and there's some great stuff in there. There really is. You know, occasionally you can come up with something which is just really nice. And over the years, I feel I have. I mean, all of those things are lost. They're lost in time. I mean, they're little jams in videos or either reviews or other bits and pieces that I've done over the time. And that's kind of just the nature of the modular, in that you make something nice and you enjoy that for what it is, capture it if you can, record it if you can, but then you have to move on and do other things. You know, there's no patch saving, there's no way of really coming back to it. However, there's a few things I'm taking from this. The combination of oscillators I've got in this top case now, I'm really happy with. I mean, obviously I have other filters and other oscillators, things like the Honor oscillator I used to use an enormous amount, or that Roland System 80 filter that I've got I used to use all the time. Whereas I seem to have come to a point now where the combination of this really nice sounding Pony VCO doesn't take up hardly any space. It's got a great, you know, normal oscillator sawtooth sound, which is kind of all I'm after. It has that going into the Sunless City filter, which is just a beautiful transistor ladder filter, which is really nice. I'm enjoying the drive you get into it. I'm enjoying the two forms of modulation you can put in, and yeah, I'm still learning how to use it properly, but that is just a great combination. That with the stochastic inspiration generator to feed it some notes just becomes this lovely thing. And now with the Neot Trinity being able to pump in those accents, if you like, on the filter, totally brilliant. Totally brilliant. And then also the acronym, I think, is a really nice oscillator. I'm thoroughly enjoying that. The Crazy Chicken thing is just because it's Crazy Chicken, it has whole levels of awesomeness as a filter. So I'm very happy with those. So those sort of combinations, I'm probably going to use again and again, I should think. Hopefully in different ways. The Bleeding Surface from Qubit gets in everywhere. I can't seem to get rid of it. I mean, I only ever use it for that twangy struck string sound, but you know, it just does it. It feels, you know, it becomes a pad, if you like, and that I think is something that's really nice, as well as adding different textures and different harmonics and bits and pieces of stuff. It's just really nice. Really nice. I still don't know quite work out how I got that strange tone wobble thing to go on in the background. That's just quite amazing. Anyway, there we go. I could talk for hours. It's not really warmed up in here at all. I need to go and stand over by my radiator. But I mean, I hope that was interesting or useful. This is now longer than the original patch was, which is just nuts. But hey, I'm here to talk about modular, and that's what I'm doing. So hopefully coming up very soon, because I am required to review these things, will be my thoughts on the Neot Trinity, which I say, you know, to sum it up at this point, I would say looks terrible, looks far too complicated, does some awesome things, and has a lot more for me to find. And I'm going to be doing the SGR 1806 here as well, because it's crazy. So I like a bit of crazy. So I'm going to be doing those. I also want to do a video on the Particles Dead Bad. I want to do a video on the Trinity Dead Bad to get those things. And the Mandrake deserves a video. Oh, lots and lots. The Mojave, the Mojave, whatever it is, that Qubit one up there also needs a lot of my time, because I can't seem to intuit it into anything. I keep sort of dropping things into it and going, I just don't get it. I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to have to sit down with that all by itself and really get to the meat of what the heck that is about. So that's my plan for the next few weeks before I'm going to have to then just focus on Synth East and getting all that together. and so on. So there we go. Hope that was useful. In the meantime, go make some tunes.